Chapter 13, text 38. Atha jagama bhagavan narada saha pratyutaya bhivadyaha sanujo bhyachayan munim.
Translation. While Sanjaya was thus speaking, Sri Narada, the powerful devotee of the Lord, appeared on the scene carrying his tumburu. Maharaj Yudhishthir and his brothers received him properly by getting up from their seats and offering obeisances.
Text 39. Yudhishthirvacha Naham Vedagatim Pitrur Bhagavan Kvagvatav Itaha Ambavahata Putrarta Kvagata Cha Tapasvini.
Translation. Maharaj Yudhishthir said, O godly personality, I do not know where my two uncles have gone, nor can I find my ascetic aunt who is grief-stricken by the loss of all her sons.
Text 40. Karnadhara iva pare Bhagavan paradarsakaha Atha babhase Bhagavan Narado muni satamaha.
Translation. You are like a captain of a ship in a great ocean, and you can direct us to our destination. Thus addressed, the godly personality, Devarshi Narada, greatest of the philosopher devotees, began to speak.
Text 41. Narada uvacha Ma kanchana sucho rajan Yad ishvara vasham jagat Lokaha sapala yashime Vahanti balim ishitu Samyu sumyunakti bhutani Sa eva viyunakti ja.
Translation. Sri Narada said, O pious king, do not lament for anyone, for everyone is under the control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all living beings and their leaders carry on worship to be well protected. It is He only who brings them together and disperses them.
Text 42. Yatha gavo nashi protas Tantyam badascha dhammabhi Vaktantyam namabhir badha Vahanti balim ishituhu.
Translation. As a cow bound through the long rope is conditioned, so also human beings are bound by different Vedic injunctions and are conditioned to obey the orders of the Supreme.
Text 43. Yatha kridopaskaranam Samyoga vigamav iha Ichaya kriditu syatam Tatheva sechayaninam.
Translation. As a player sets up and disperses his playthings according to his own sweet will, so the supreme will of the Lord brings men together and separates them.
Text 44. Yanmanyase dhruvam lokam adhruvam va nachobhayam sarvatha nahi sochaste snehad anyatra mohajat.
Translation. O king, in all circumstances, whether you consider the soul to be an eternal principle, or the material body to be perishable, or everything to exist in the impersonal absolute truth, or everything to be an inexplicable combination of matter and spirit, feelings of separation are due only to illusory affection and nothing more.
Text 45. Tasmajahiyanga vekallavyam Ajnana kritam atmanaha Katham tva antaha kripana Vartiramste chamam vina.
Translation. Therefore, give up your anxiety due to ignorance of the self. You are now thinking of how they, who are helpless poor creatures, will exist without you.
Text 46. Kala karma gunadhino dehoyam panchabhotikah katham anyam stu gopayat sarpagrasto yatha param.
Translation. This gross material body made of 5 elements is already under the control of eternal time, kala, action, karma, and the modes of material nature, guna. How then can it be, being already in the jaws of the serpent, protect others?
Text 47. Ahastani sahastanam apadani chatuspadam falguni tatra mahatam jivo jivasya jivanam.
Translation. Those who are devoid of hands are prey for those who have hands. Those devoid of legs are prey for the four-legged. The weak are the subsistence of the strong, and the general rule holds that one living being is food for another.
Text 48. Tad idam bhagavan rajan eka atmatmanam svadark antaro nantaro bhati pashyatam mayayurudha.
Translation. Therefore, O king, you should look to the Supreme Lord only, who is one without a second, and who manifests himself by different energies and is both within and without.
Text 49. Soyam adya maharaj bhagavan bhuta bhavana kalarupo vitirnosyam abhavaya suradvisham.
Translation. That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, in the guise of an all-devouring time, Kalarupa, has now descended to the earth to eliminate the envious from the world.
Text 50. Nishpaditam devakrityam avesham pratikakshate tavadyuyam avekshadvam bhavid yavad iheshvaraha.
Translation. The Lord has already performed his duties to help the demigods, and he is awaiting the rest. You Pandavas may wait as long as the Lord is here on earth.
Text 51. Dhritarashtra sahabhratra gandharya cha svabhrayaya dakshinena himavata rishinam asharam gataha.
Translation. O king, your uncle Draharashtra, his brother Vidura, and his wife Gandhari have gone to the southern side of the Himalaya mountains, where there are shelters of the great sages.
Text 52. Shrutabhi saptabhiryave svardhuni saptada vyadhat saptanam pritaye nana saptastrotah prakakshate.
Translation. The place is called Saptasrota, divided by 7, because there the waters of the sacred Ganges were divided into 7 branches. This was done for the satisfaction of the 7 great rishis.
Text 53. Snatvanushavanam tasmin hutva kagnin yatha vidhi abhaksha upashantatma sa aste vagata ishanaha.
Translation. On the banks at Saptasrota, Dhaharashtra is now engaged in beginning Ashtanga Yoga by bathing 3 times daily in the morning, noon, and evening, by performing the Agnihotra sacrifice with fire and by drinking only water. This helps one control the mind and the senses and frees one completely from thoughts of familial affection.
Text 54. Jitasano jitasvasaha pratyaharta sad indriyaha hari bhavanaya davasta rajasattva tamo malaha.
Translation. One who has controlled the sitting postures the yogic asanas, and the breathing process can turn the senses toward the absolute personality of Godhead, and thus become immune to the contaminations of the modes of material nature, namely mundane goodness, passion, and ignorance.
Text 55. Vignanatmani samyojya kshetrayagne pravilpyatam brahmani atmanam adhare gatham varam ivambare.
Translation. Dhritarashtra will have to amalgate his pure identity with intelligence and then merge into the Supreme Being with knowledge of his qualitative oneness as a living entity with the Supreme Brahman. Being freed from the blocked sky, he will have to rise to the spiritual sky.
Text 56. Dvasta maya gunodarko nirudakaranaşaya nivartita khilahara aste stanur ivachalaha Tasyantarayo vabuhu sanyasti khila karmana.
Translation. He will have to suspend all the actions of the senses, even from the outside, and will have to be impervious to interactions of the senses, which are influenced by the modes of material nature. After renouncing all material duties, he must become immovably established beyond all sources of hindrance on the path.
Text 57. Sava adyanta najrajan parata panchamehani kalevaram hasyati svam taccha basmi pavishyati.
Translation. O king, he will quit his body, most probably on the 5th day from today, and his body will turn to ashes.
Text 58. Dhyamanigni dehe patyupatni sahotaje bahistitha patim sadvi tam agnim anuvikshati.
Translation. While outside observing her husband, who will burn in the fire of mystic power along with his thatched cottage, his chaste wife will enter the fire with rapt attention.
Text 59. Vidurastu tad ascharyam nishamya kuru nandana harsha soka yutastasmad ganta tirtha nisevakaha.
Translation. Vidura, being affected with delight and grief, will then leave that place of sacred pilgrimage.
Text 60. Iti uktavadharuhat svargam narada sahatumburuhu yudhishthiro vachastasya hridhi kartva jahak chuchaha.
Translation. Having spoken thus, the great sage Narada, along with his Vina, ascended into outer space. Yudhishthir kept his instruction in his heart and so was able to get rid of all lamentations. Thank you for the opportunity to recite Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji's, Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
My obeisance all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'm sorry I was at work till late today. Has the recitation finished?
Yes, Prabhuji, we just finished.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
And I've made you host, Prabhuji.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I hope everybody is keeping well. Nice to see everyone once again online. I'm just going to share my screen with all of you. Hopefully you can see it now. Good to see some of the familiar faces here. We have Sandeep Prabhu, Chandrika Mataji, Oh, many of you. Great. Rupa Mataji, Krishnavani Mataji, Palika Mataji, Shailesh. Hare Krishna, everyone. Okay. All right. So we're doing text 44 and text 45. So the text 44 is from Canto 1, Chapter 13. Yanmanayase dhruvam lokam adurvam vanacho bhayam sarvatha nahi sochaste snehat ayatra mohajat. Translation. O King, in all circumstances, whether you consider the soul to be eternal principle, or material body to be perishable, or everything to exist in the impersonal absolute truth, or everything to be an inexplicable combination of matter and spirit, feelings and substance are due only to illusory affection and nothing more. Okay, just 1 second. Let me do this. The actual fact is that every living being is an individual part and parcel of the Supreme Being, and his constitutional position is subordinate cooperative service, either in his conditional material existence or in his liberated position of full knowledge and eternity. The living entity is subordinate to the Supreme Lord. But those who are not conversant with the factual knowledge put forward many speculative propositions about the real position of the living entity. It is admitted, however, by all schools of philosophy that the living being is eternal and that the covering body of the five material elements is perishable and temporary. The eternal living entity transmigrates from one material body to another by the law of karma, and material bodies are perishable by their fundamental structures. Therefore, there is nothing to be lamented in the case of the souls being transferred into another body or the material bodies perishing at a certain stage. There are others also who believe in merging of the spirit soul in the Supreme Spirit when it is uncovered by the material encagement. And there are others also who do not believe in the existence of spirit or soul, but believe in tangible matter. In our daily experience, we find so many transformations of matter from one form to another, but we do not lament such changing features. In either of the above cases, the force of the divine energy is unshakable. No one has any hand in it, and thus there is no cause of grief. So we'll discuss some points from this purport, and then we will go over to the next one, which is text 45 we are covering. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauramani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Desha Tarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuve Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just to give a bit of a context of where we are, so this is a chapter entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home. Previous to this chapter, we had started to hear about the glories of the Parikshit Maharaj. Do you recall the glorious birth of Parikshit Maharaj and the background of Parikshit Maharaj in the chapter 12? And now the chapter has transited into Dhritarashtra quitting home. It is a very important gesture, junction, not gesture, junction in Srimad Bhagavatam, where and a very historical one, where Dhritarashtra is leaving or about to quit home. So here in the beginning of the few verses, we see how Vidura returns to Hastinapur from a pilgrimage. He had gone to a pilgrimage. Do you know what kind of pilgrimage did Vidura go? Does anybody know where did he go? Let's have a bit of a quiz today. Where did Vidura go? Anyone?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat.
Sorry, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Oh, go on.
Krishna. Let's hear from Sandeep Prabhu, then we'll go to Rupa Mata.
I think Rupa Mataji might have correct answer, Prabhuji. Let's hear
No,
from. I
no,
was,
not correct. You can start.
I
Sandeep
was
Prabhuji.
just about to say up north,
Yeah.
Up north. Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, Rupa
To the
Mataji, can you tell
Himalayas,
us the place?
Himalayas.
Yeah. That was my answer as well. Himalayas.
Yeah, so the correct answer is he went to Badrika Ashram, in Himalayas actually. So Vidura went for a tour, while lots was going on in the battlefield and so much things were happening, and Vidura was on a spiritual pilgrimage. It is explained very interestingly, two personalities when so much was happening were touring. One was Vidura, the other one was Lord Balaram, as you all know. And it's very interesting. They were both touring. So in the beginning of the text 1 and 2, we see how Vidura returns after hearing from Maitreya about the self-realization. During the course of traveling, he actually tours and he goes around the north where he also meets near Yamuna, he meets Maitreya, where he get enlightenment. And then from there on, we see from text 3 to 7 that all Hastinapur residents received him as if they regained the consciousness. So Vidura, because he was a pure devotee, unalloyed devotee of the Lord, when he came back, he was received like a king. That's the kind of atmosphere there was. Devotees were so joyful, they were so happy, to receive Vidura at the time. And then we see how Yudhishthir inquires about Vidura's travel and also um, about the Dwarka Vasis, because he was coming from that direction. That how are the Dwarka Vasis? How was your travel, Vidura? We have missed you. Please tell us about yourself. So these were some of the details covered in the initial verses. And now from text 12 to 13, Vidura relates everything except the news of the Yadu's annihilation. So he told everything about his travel, where he went, what he did, but he did not talk about Yadu's annihilation. And that created some anxiety in the minds of Pandavas, especially headed by Yudhishthir Maharaj. And for the benefit of Dhritarashtra, who's attached to the family affairs, now Vidura will enlighten Dhritarashtra. And he starts to tell him immediately, he said, get out of here, and fear has overcome you. So this is the point where Vidura has previously had conversations with Dhritarashtra about him trying to leave the kingdom and going, but they weren't done in a very formal way or in a very firm way. This time, Vidura comes back and he straight away goes to Dhritarashtra after having the conversation with Yudhishthir Maharaj that enough is enough. It's time for you to get up, get out there, go to the forest and achieve your perfection in the life. Don't waste any more time. It is explained, he almost humiliates him to the point of telling him that you're eating. Who are you eating? These people are feeding you. These are the same sons who you fought against with your sons, and now you're being taken care of on their food. So he big time humiliated Dhritarashtra. And then in the next verses from text 18, he says, get out from here and try to look for self-realization. Then I just wanted to refer to some of my notes. And then text 19 to 20, he says, the Lord as Kala approached all of us, forcing everyone to surrender everything. And so he is giving an example that how Krishna comes in the form of time, we hear in the Bhagavad Gita. And he's telling the same thing to Dhritarashtra. That Dhritarashtra, Krishna is fast approaching you in the form of death, which is a representation of Kala. So please try to now awaken your consciousness towards Krishna and perfect your life. And then text 21 to 22, we hear all the relatives died, symptoms of the old age appeared in you, is giving the example that how so much has happened in your life, Dhritarashtra, everyone has left. Text 23 to 24, you're living like a dog of a Bhima. No need to live like a degraded life. You see the point I was making earlier, that how almost like a humiliating conversation with Dhritarashtra. And then you are a Kripana, you couldn't be Narottam, become Dhira, leave for north. Now Vidura is telling after coming. So it's very interesting, you see. one thing is to hear about the scriptures, but Vidura had the practical realization of hearing, being a pure devotee and having traveled to the places of pilgrimage. He's now had that realization, and he's telling Dhritarashtra that please go and perfect your life. And then he speaks about Gandhari who wanted to follow Dhritarashtra, and Yudhishthira discovered their departure. After hearing Vidura enlightens Dhritarashtra, Dhritarashtra leaves home and Gandhari decides to follow her husband. And Prabhupada remarks in some of those purports, if you remember very carefully, he mentions the point that this Varnashram Dharma is so systematically arranged that in a devotional life, a wife does not have to leave a husband, or a husband does not have to leave, as long as they are following the regulative principle and practicing the bhakti. So they could go to one, take varna ashram together, and the wife could follow with only intention to help serve her husband in the service of the Lord. And if that's the intention, then the wife is more than welcome to carry on with the husband. But of course, if the husband then do decide to take sannyas after vanaprasth, then in that case, the wife can no longer go. And then we hear many injunctions that when wife reaches to a certain stage, and if she has a son, then she should be interested in the care of her son, and the husband can then go ahead and take sannyas. So that happened, and then Then in text 38 to 40, we hear the arrival of Narad Muni and King Yudhishthira inquiries. Now there is a conversation taking place in the between Yudhishthira Maharaj and Narad Muni. And now we are in those conversations from text 41 to 50, where Narad Muni is giving the philosophy to dispel the illusion of Yudhishthira Maharaj, who had so many inquiries. Although it seems like Yudhishthira Maharaj has inquiries, but he's really inquiring for the benefit of all of us. I just want to read some of the important points in this section, which Narad Muni is illustrating. So you may want to make a note of these, at least mentally, if you can't write them down. They're really good point. So from beginning from text 41, what is Narad Muni telling Yudhishthira Maharaj? That everyone is under the controls of Lord. No one, even though those who think that I'm not in control, even they are not in control of the Lord. I was hearing a lecture recently of Shubha Vilas Prabhu, another genius in our movement. He has written so many wonderful books. And Prabhu was explaining that how, you know, this little finger we have, and, there are so many veins, there is bone, there is blood, and everything is running so systematically through our fingers, and which is connecting with the hand like this throughout our body. So much is happening, we don't realize, but why is it happening? It wasn't Shubha Vilas Prabhu, it was Amog Leela Prabhu. I've been hearing Shubha Vilas Prabhu, but this was Amog Leela Prabhu. So he was saying, some people say that I don't believe in God. He said, bring me such people and I'll ask them, what is it that make them feel that they don't believe in God? So it's quite interesting. He talked about these simple things that, who's taking care of all of this in your body? It's happening by the superior authority. The body is arranged in such a way. This is a very small example Prabhu was giving. So like that, every single thing is in control of God. Second, Narad Muni says a cow is bound by a rope through its nose. Similarly, human beings are bound by the Vedic injunctions, which are the Supreme Lord's order. So here in this verse, in the text 42, Narad Muni is emphasizing the importance of the Vedic scriptures. And if you take a moment and just think, Srila Prabhupada, he traveled 14 times around the world, giving Krishna consciousness to everybody wherever he went. And throughout his travel, he did not, like, sometimes we say, bus ho gaya, I need a break. I just need a break. I want to do something. I just want to relax. I want to hear a kirtan, just sit down. Even spiritually, we want to relax and just take it easy. Or I just want to watch Abhay Charan, or I just want to watch um, Little Krishna, whatever that may be, to relax us. But imagine Prabhupada, did you ever hear him that I want to just watch this? I just want to do that. No. Prabhupada knew that we human beings who are so much conditioned, Prakrite Kriya Manani Gunha Karmani Sarvasha Ahankara Vimudhatma Kartaham iti manyate, that we are totally engrossed thinking I'm the doer, I'm doing everything. We think I'm the controller. But Prabhupada, to take that illusion away of me and mine, I and I, not I and I, me and mine and I, is that he wrote the scriptures, he wrote these books, he gave us these Bhaktivedanta purports so that they can bring us from the journey of darkness to light, from illusion to illumination. That's what Srila Prabhupada's contribution is. And when you read Srila Prabhupada books daily, more and more you will realize. These days, I'm reading 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where the conversation, now I'm in towards the chapter where there is a conversation going on between Lord Krishna and Uddhava. And Uddhava is now speaking to the Lord. He has full understanding that the Lord is about to leave, and Krishna is giving the instruction to Uddhava. And because Uddhava is pure devotee, right before giving the instruction, he's telling Uddhava that I want you to stay here so you can benefit the world. See, this is the mood of the Lord. Lord and his devotees are always thinking how to benefit us. That's why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that why do I appear? I appear, what is that verse? Dharm samsapna artaya sambhavami yuge yuge. That in order to reestablish the principles of religion, and the best way to reestablish the principles of religion is through the Vedic scriptures. So Narad Muni is emphasizing here.
Prabhu, it's Pavitranaya
Oh yeah,
Sadhuna
paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chatuskritam
Dushkritam
dharma
Dharma Sanstha
samsapna arthaya
Sambhavami.
bhavami yuge yuge. Thank you, Krishnavani Mataji.
Hari.
So he appears, every millennium after millennium to reestablish the principles. But we are very lucky in Kali Yuga because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared just 500 years ago to reestablish the Yuga Dharma, the Harinam Sankirtan Yagya. And Prabhupada in many places explains that we do not require very pompous arrangements. We do not need to gather so much of ingredients to perform the fire sacrifices which were happening in the previous ages. We simply have to adapt the process of the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and best if we can do it together congregationally and spread this Sankirtan movement wide and far. So by doing that, we are giving others an opportunity to come closer to Krishna. If somebody reads one line of Prabhupada books, he or she hugely gets benefited. You're all testimony of that. So similarly, we see here Narad Muni is telling us, Vedic scriptures have to be taken. Then text 43, a player sets up the dispersed playthings by his own sweet will. Similarly, the Lord brings men together and separates them by his supreme will. So you see, it's not a coincidence that we are married to a certain wife, to have certain children who may be giving us certain challenges, troubles, happiness, everything. But one should accept that this is a tailor-made custom arrangement, right? Sometimes, okay, we are grahastas. Grahastas have argument, right? We have utensils in our kitchen. When you put them too close together, they make noise. So similarly, when a husband and a wife come together, naturally there is a exchange of love, exchange of affection, but equally there is exchange of arguments. And in the course of doing so, of course, the idea is we develop tolerance, but one has to come to an understanding that this is a perfect arrangement for me. This person is customizedly made and tailorly made for my own purification. I'm speaking not from realization, but we have such experiences, me and my wife, we have discussions and we try to talk it out. And we hear from so many seniors that it's not all about winning the argument. It's sometimes like, what is it that Gaur-Gopal Prabhu says, right? There is, you apologize to the other person, you say sorry to the other person, not because you're wrong, but because you value the person more than being right. And one of the persons in a relationship has to take that step. Not necessarily, a lot of times my Guru Maharaj says we get into argument, and after like in few minutes we are arguing about something else completely. The main topic we started about arguing is already taken a back seat. Everything else are past, and so many, last time you said this to me, last time I did this, all of these things are happening. But we really have to come to gradually to this understanding. It's not easy, but it will happen. But at least theoretically, if we can understand that this Mataji, this Prabhu, this child, this son, this daughter, they are in my life for a customized arrangement has been made for my own purification. And Krishna has arranged a very appropriate person. That's why Vedically, we don't believe in divorces. We don't believe in separation, because there is a strong rooted understanding Vedically that I'm married, I've taken a vow to protect this person, and vice versa. And And for that, we will have up and downs, but the idea is to try and work things out for the higher purpose, for the purpose of Krishna consciousness. So that's why here Narad Muni explains that Lord brings people and he separates us, in this life, then we move on to the next life. This is going on from time immemorial. And now in text 44, what we read, lamentation in separation is only due to illusory affection, whether you consider the self to be the soul, the body, neither or both. You see, the soul we hear in this purport, Prabhupada makes a point that the soul is eternal. Some people speculate, okay, I might be this, God might be that, God might be this. Don't speculate. Take the shelter of scriptures and things will become crystal clear, to oneself actually. So that I kind of summarize the whole chapter, but especially these verses, I wanted to bring you to the point of text 44. And let's just look at a couple more lines and then we'll go to text 45. So here I wanted to highlight this point Prabhupada is making. Therefore, there is nothing to be lamented in the case of souls being transferred into another body or the material bodies perishing at a certain stage. There are others also who believe in merging of the spirit soul in supreme spirit soul when it is uncovered by the material engagement, and there are others also who do not believe in the existence of spirit or soul, but believe in tangible matter. In our daily experience, we find so many transformations of matter. Our body is changing almost every few minutes. We are going through so many transformation. It says that once you touch the cycle of, what was it, 40 or 30, I can't remember, your body is already kind of going downhill. So like that, so many transformations are taking place, but the souls being one thing I want to mention here, this point about no need of lamentation. You see, when you're living in a devotional atmosphere in a family who's trying to practice Krishna consciousness, or even if one person is Krishna conscious, and some loved one leaves, like today I was traveling for work. I was in far from Nottingham, even further down. We were opening a new care home, so I was visiting that care home and meeting the team there. And a colleague of mine, just his name is Steve, he gave me a lift to station, and I was just, it was a good opportunity to get to know people as a person. I was just talking to him, and he was just sharing that how his life is, he's so much is all about, like, of course family, but so much about enjoyment. I like to eat this, I like to go here, I like to go do this, I like to drink this. So much our life goes on thinking about this matter, and every time we have these desires, that is another material body, unfortunately. So then he came to the point and he said, unfortunately, we lost our first child. The wife had miscarriage, and they were living with their father-in-law, and the father-in-law was, oh, it wasn't meant to happen. So when he made that comment, his wife took it really, really strongly. It was her own father saying like that. So being having the understanding or philosophical understanding that the soul never dies does not make us or gives us the right to be insensitive towards the people's feeling. So we as a devotee, this is a very important point I want to share. We have to be very, very careful when we are moving around the society, talking to the people. It is very easy done and said, oh, it's just the soul, the body has left, it's lying there, why are you crying? No, as a devotee, okay, we understand that, but we are still emotional beings. There is no harm if it naturally you feel, you feel the tears are coming up to your eyes. You want to say something to your loved ones who are gathered there, and be there for them. That's what Krishna consciousness is all about. This Prabhupada is trying to make us fundamentally realize, but we still have to be sensitive towards people's feeling. We still go to people's funerals. We still talk to the people. We still give them a call and say, sorry to hear about the loss you had. How are things with you? Can I help you with anything? We are there to help each other, because it's the relationships which will help us to transcend that philosophy into others, or transport that philosophy in a much easier way than just to tell people and rock up on a funeral. "Oh, the body is left, man. Why are you crying? Let's just get serious in Krishna consciousness." Nobody will take us seriously, because we ourselves hasn't become serious if that's the comment we are making to the people. So being very sensitive and having the feelings is very, very critical in what we do in Krishna consciousness. So going on to the next verse. Sorry, let me just change the text 44. Text 45. Therefore, give up. Sorry. Tasma jahi anga klavyam ajnana kritam atmana katham tav anatha kripana vatre sante cha mam vina. Translation. Therefore, give up your anxiety due to ignorance of the self. You're now thinking of how they who are helpless, poor creatures will exist without you. Purport. When we think of our kith and kin as being helpless and dependent on us, it is all due to ignorance. Every living creature is allowed all protection by the order of the Supreme Lord in terms of each one's acquired position in the world. The Lord is known as Bhuta Bhrit, one who gives protection to all living beings. One should discharge his duties only, for no one but the Supreme Lord can give protection to anyone else. This is explained more clearly in the following verses. So taking protection and shelter will be explained in the text 46. There is a 47 also about how to focus on the Supreme Lord and take that shelter. And then there is an element about understanding the Lord means understanding his mission. That will be talked about in the text 49. So next verses will take us more into the detail of how that surrender take place. But here Prabhupada is saying the word used here is the Bhuta Brit, one who gives protection to all living beings. So sometimes we may think, okay, so many people in India are on the roadside. What are they doing? Somehow or other, they're getting their food, and of course, there are people who may not be getting what is needed, but one cannot conclude that the God is so cruel. God is not looking at them. In some of form or other, the Lord is providing, but it is actually our own unfortunate karmic reactions which are putting us in that situation to go through that suffering. But we have to constantly pray and take shelter of the devotees of the Vaishnavas, uh, and only then that will protect. When Krishna is telling Uddhava in the 11th canto, which I've been reading, he's telling him constantly that it is the association of the advanced devotees which helps us one really progress in Krishna consciousness. Of course, there is an element we need to attract the mercy of the devotees by putting an effort in our sadhana and doing all the things which we have to do because we are doing Vaidhi Bhakti given to us, by Rupa Goswami, that whole process. But what's fundamental and important is we should always be in the mood to try and attract the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Because when that mercy comes, then it becomes much, much easier to follow the path of devotional service. You see, all of the wonderful disciples of Srila Prabhupada today, every single one of them are so empowered to spread Krishna consciousness. Why? Because Prabhupada gave them the mercy, Prabhupada gave them the love, Prabhupada gave them that time. Prabhupada nurtured them. Prabhupada showed them, and he was a real gentleman. Srila Prabhupada was a person who, he was a relationship personified. He was so particular, so caring about the devotees, even the servants who were serving him, he would always make sure that they are being taken care of. Prasadam is being given to them. And if sometimes he will see someone, oh, are you not eating? You've become weak. You must eat prasadam, like that. A pure devotee like that, he could have been carrying on just on the mission, but while he was on the mission, he did not forget the people, because he knew that it is the people who actually will help spread the mission. So he always nurtured, always cared for the disciples, people who came to meet with him, reporters. He was very straight in what he said and what he did, but he was equally very, very nice to the people in general. Like one example we will conclude on, when Prabhupada came to the West, especially England, for the second time when he landed, there was a reporter who came right at the airport, and he went, "What brings you here, Swamiji?" And Srila Prabhupada took a pause, and then he said, you know, you guys all came, not, I'm paraphrasing, he said, all of you came and inherited all our, so much of riches from India. You took away all the wonderful jewels, so many things, and you bought it here in England. But you forgot the most important jewel, which is the transcendental knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, which I've come to give you. So you see, he was such a person who was always living in Vrindavan consciousness, and he gave such a wonderful answer, but yet he was very straightforward, but he was very, very polite in his conversation. And because he was speaking from authority and what he was speaking was an absolute truth, at least in my memory, in so many memories of Prabhupada or anything you watch, you hardly see people arguing, hardly. Because you see, Krishna was in the heart of Prabhupada, constantly guiding him as a manifestation of his super soul, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his Guru Maharaj, which is also Chaitya Guru's form situated as super soul, was constantly guiding Prabhupada. So whatever he spoke on the basis of the scripture. He was like a lion when it came to preaching, and people could just not default that because it was coming from spiritual realm. When something comes from spiritual realm, you cannot defeat it. That's the purpose. That's the essence of the Vedic scriptures. You see, that's how strong Srila Prabhupada was. He would always speak from scriptures and he would be very heavy, but at the same time, he had a softer side. He would spend time with his disciples, talking to them, speaking to them, nurturing the relationship. And this is what Bhagavatam is all about. Here, Vidura was very stern to Dhritarashtra. You got to get out, you got to do something. But ultimately, he had his best interest at his heart. He wanted Dhritarashtra to also become, he wanted him to feel the same bliss he was feeling for towards Krishna, to take to Krishna consciousness. That's why he enlightened. He spent so much of time giving Krishna consciousness to Dhritarashtra. So we stop here. Sorry, I did not have the slides today. I just worked from my notes. I've been a little bit busy traveling, so I didn't really get a chance to prepare the slides. But I thought I'll just share a few things which I came across and thoughts and give you a bit of an overview of where we are in the chapter. I hope that was helpful. If devotees have any comments, reflections, or any questions, I will do my best to answer. Reflection is not
Hare
a
Krishna.
question. Yes, Mataji, go ahead. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Shri. Very nicely explained. This verse is what I understand now. The whole chapter went step by step. You know how Vidura came and the whole family, the whole, after the war is finished, everybody's kind of feeling, though the lot of thing has happened, and now Vidura come back. It's when since he came back, it happened in these stages. First, Vidura sort of, with the family, gave all the things he did, and then suddenly, then he took the opportunity to enlighten Dhritarashtra. How boldly he did that. I mean, he did it before the war. He was trying. It wasn't going through, but he, as I mentioned last week also, because he went to the pilgrimage, he was very spiritually empowered. And every word he was saying, it went through Dhritarashtra's heart and penetrate and really made him see, yes, what he's saying, it's correct, and I need to do something about it. Before, it wasn't going through him. It wasn't
Yeah.
going. He was really, Bidu was really empowering him to get out of this, whatever he was, and
Yes.
really help. And then everybody left. Dhritarashtra went, Bidura went. Now Narad Muni comes in right time. And he gives them the, enlightening then what's really happening, because Narad Muni knows everything.
Yeah.
That way, then Yudhishthir came into senses. He says, what Narad Muni says is true. It's
Yeah,
correct.
and how Narad Muni narrated that,
Yes,
because he could see what's happening to Dhritarashtra. He's telling him he's already
yes.
working towards his self-realization. I think from verse 51, 52 onwards, we will hear Narad Muni telling Yudhishthir Maharaj, don't worry about Dhritarashtra, they are achieving perfection, and so is Gandhari actually.
Hmm. It's so nicely, this whole chapter has been narrated so nicely, and Srila Prabhupada's Parkwood has really very enlightening. So thank you for explaining all. It's really very, very nice. I think we should all hear it and realize it in our own life so that we can go in the next stage. That's my
Absolutely.
understanding. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Palika Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other reflection? That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Any other reflection? Anything you felt which you could take away from Prabhupada purport or from monologue which was discussed today?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes,
Dharam
you
Pranam.
have wonderfully summarized the nearly whole chapter, up to the chapter, the sloks we have done. It was really nice, lovely hearing the summary. Although, there was no slides, but thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Krishnavani Mataji, for being so committed to this process. And yeah, you're a great example for your Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, my Dandavat pranams to you. All glories to
Thank
Srila
you, Mataji.
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
It was very nice to have you back, with full energy, and it was so nicely
Krishna.
explained, very
Thank you.
nicely.
Thank you,
Thank
Mataji.
you. Yeah, you come with a burst of energy, and that really, really helps. Yeah, and it's very practical as well. Though you didn't make the slides, but once you spoke the whole thing, it was very practical. So, yeah, really liked it. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Rupa Mataji. Hare Krishna. Okay, if devotees don't have any comments, questions, or reflections, all I want to say is keep dedicating. Yes, Hari Mohan Prabhu, would you like to say something?
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
I enjoyed very much evening listening to you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
A very nice illustration of some personality. I was delighted to hear it.
Thank you, Hari Mohan Prabhu.
We have got a lot of things, single person, Prabhupada. If we had a lot to learn from him, but his attitude, whatever he has been doing, the single person spread all over the world, the name Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
God bless.
Thank you, Hari Mohan Prabhu. Nice to see you, Prabhu. I mean, I've not seen you. It'll be good to see you. I don't know if you're on the camera.
Yeah,
but,
you.
Where are you, Prabhu? I'd love to see your effulgent face. Good to hear from you. I cannot see, your camera is not on, but I can see your name coming up. No problem. If you want to switch on, absolutely fine. But if not, I understand. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, I was just saying, devotees, that we have a rare privilege of having this human form. Narottam Das Thakur, in his bhajan, he says that if we have the human form, human body, and if we just spend morning to evening in actually sense gratification or enjoying the material life, then what we are doing is knowingly we are drinking the poison. That's what Narottam Das Thakur is saying. Jadama Gainu, that we are willfully spoiling our life and drinking the poison ourselves, actually. So yeah, human birth, very rare. What's more rare is having the association of our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, through his purports, through his books, through his lectures. Extremely rare. And even more rare is to come in a Kali Yuga where the Devi Devatas are wanting to descend to this planet and live near Bhaktivedanta Manor, where near Radha Gokulananda reside, where a pure devotee like Prabhupada walked. But Mahaprabhu just appeared only 500 years ago, actually. And it is explained by our acharyas that he does not appear in every Kali Yuga, but he appeared just 500 years ago. So you can imagine the effect is so much there. And he himself predicted, Prithvi te aache nagar adi gram, sarvatra prachar hoy mera naam. That his name, or no, sarvatra prachar hoy, in Krishna's name will be chanted in every town and village. And we are, in a smallest way, have an opportunity to play and become an instrument by taking our life, Krishna conscious life, very seriously, and also spreading it for the benefit of others. And by doing so, then we are taking a complete advantage of Kali Yuga, complete advantage of the instructions of Vidura, which he's trying to tell us, although it seemingly looks like he's speaking to Dhritarashtra, because everybody who was involved in the battlefield was playing a part of the Parishad of the Lord, or of the eternal associate of the Lord. But this Bhagavatam is really spoken for the benefits of the Kali Yuga people, because those 18,000 sages who assembled in the Nemisharanya forest, they were all siddhis, they were all siddhas. I mean, they were perfected beings. They became even more pure by hearing the Bhagavatam, but really that Bhagavatam by Sutta Goswami was spoken for our benefit, actually. So let's take advantage, let's take shelter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sanatan Goswami says, you're my eternal friend, you're my only well-wisher. So let's develop that mood towards Srimad Bhagavatam, imbibe it, embrace it fully, and help us distribute this Bhagavatam. This year, we want to distribute 720 sets of Bhagavatam. And the way we want to distribute is, of course, that's our internal score for all of us who are reading Bhagavatam. But what we want to do is, we want to tell 7,200 people about Bhagavatam. And if we tell 7,200 of people about Srimad Bhagavatam, then the hope is at least 10% people will invite the physical form of the book Srimad Bhagavatam in their home, and the other 90% will invite at least in their mind to begin with. What a glorious effort. If you think about 7,200 people, it's a big task. But if each one of you, there are 27 of you on this call, if you all start glorifying Bhagavatam to your friends, it can easily be doable. So very soon we will be doing an event where we would like to invite you, and you take a pledge that I want to tell at least 10 people, 15, 20, 50, 100 people, or one person about Bhagavatam. The minimum pledge will be telling one person, and maximum there is no limit, because we need to tell 7,200 people. So we want all of you to start thinking of a pledge you can take to just simply glorify Bhagavatam to others. After that, if they decide to take, that's a bonus. If not, at least you're getting purified by glorifying Bhagavatam to others. So that's my humble request to all of you. Please meditate on how we can spread this Srimad Bhagavatam and make Prabhupada's prophecy that every respectable person should have a set of Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita in their home come true. So I pray to Prabhupada that Prabhupada, dear Srila Prabhupada, please give us the intelligence so we can surrender to this wonderful master stroke of yours, Srimad Bhagavatam. We read, we study, we try to live Bhagavatam, and please give us the intelligence to spread this message of Bhagavatam and sets of Bhagavatam to as many people as possible in England. Thank you for considering our request. Those of you who agree with my request, either in part or whole, please unmute and say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Vanchakalpatarubhasya kripa
Krishna.
sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo
Hare Krishna.
Antara
Hare
Srimad
Krishna.
Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you
Prabhupada.
very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
for
Thank
very
you,
nice
Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna, Govinda Gopi Mataji. Nice to see you. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Nice having you back, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Jai Bol. Krishnavani Mataji, your hand is up. You wanted to say something?
Hare Krishna. That's what it didn't allow me to unmute, but it's
Oh,
okay.
okay. All right.
Hare
Okay. No problem. Hare Krishna.